And I want to next go into our introductions of ourselves. So welcome, I am Jessica Mayorga Nunez. I'm one of the program support specialists coming to you from Riverside County Office of Education with SIP. And then I've got my colleague, Heather Snipes, coming to you from the northern area of California in El Dorado County Office of Ed with SIP. And I'm going to kind of start us off, and then you'll notice Heather will come in and we'll engage everybody also along the way. I just wanted to remind everybody as well to kind of mute yourselves as we start talking with our teachers who have joined us. And then we do have time for Q&A. So if something's coming to mind, if you have a question, please throw it in the chat. We want to hear from you and engage with you. So let me introduce our presenters. So in our main session, you heard about the framework for the collaborative partnership process. And so here in our breakout, we're excited to have our teams, both from Marysville and La Mesa Spring Valley. So we have Linda Duenas and Sophia Efimov and Anna Garcia and Sandy Collins. And so we're gonna have them share their experience about how they collaborate and partner to support all learners. Alrighty, so let's start off. Tell us about yourselves.
I'm going to go ahead and start. I am Sophia Ipamov, and I am the SDC classroom teacher at Marysville Joint Unified School District preschool. So how did I get, why did I choose the field of education? Really teaching, coaching, working with children, working with families. Really that's my passion. And I feel that it's a calling. I feel that it's something I do. It's not something I do. It's something that I am, just a teacher. And it's just, I can't not do it. So whether I'm employed or not, I still go around coaching people and teaching people. It's just who I am.
I'm her partner in crime. I'm the gen ed teacher, Linda Duenas at Marysville Joint Unified School District. And I came here to be an educator because growing up, it was a little challenging for me. And so a lot of my role models, a lot of the people who were really there for me that connected me to my school family were educators. So I found that being an educator gave me a chance to pay it forward. And I'm able to not only be a connector for others, but teach children and adults how to also connect with others. So it's kind of paying it forward and building a whole line of connectors out there that will help. And my educators have become my peeps because all the way through elementary to college and into my career, educators are who I seem to belong with.
Hi, I'm Sandy Collins. I'm the preschool special education teacher at La Mesa Spring Valley. And there were many reasons why I got into teaching, but one of the main reasons was I was that child that couldn't stop talking, couldn't stop moving, blurted out answers. I was put in the hallway. And so I never wanted a child to feel like the way that I felt because I always felt like I was doing something wrong. So that's one of the main reasons why I got into teaching. And my journey with inclusion, it started in the mid-90s. The universities that I went to, they solely taught inclusion. We didn't really learn about like SDC classes or self-contained classes. And so my journey with inclusion started really early on.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My name is Ana Lilia Garcia. I'm also from La Mesa Spring Valley School District. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I think the people that had a lot of influence in that has been my educators that I were also in my life. There was a second grade teacher that I used to go that he was really made an influence on it. And then my sixth grade teacher here I was going to school in LA and then I moved down to San Diego. So both of them different counties, and they both were great influence for me to continue my education and desire to be in this field. I believe that about inclusion is that all children are included. All children should be embraced with their uniqueness. So that's why I feel really fond about inclusivity, especially with all children.
Great, thank you. And as we transition here, I'm going to hand it back to our other team. And now, if you could share with us that forming of developing shared beliefs.
Some of our shared beliefs are every challenging situation has a solution, and we can adapt to meet the needs of every child. So there's honestly, we feel that we can handle anything, and that there's always a solution. So sometimes you have to try a little bit harder, but there's always a way to fix whatever is out there.
Yes, all things are possible, but it's going to take a lot of practice. It's okay to make mistakes. You're going to adapt what you're doing, and you're going to continue to try and make it happen through practice.
We believe that all children belong and they should naturally be included.
Building a positive relationship with your partner teacher is key. Making sure she gets my sense of humor, making sure that, we do things outside of the classroom, we do things inside the classroom, and we just kind of form those relationships through trainings, because I'm going to mess up, and it's important that she's going to show me grace and understand. Oh, or if she says something like, Miss Linda, you can do it this way, I need to be open to that. And it's a lot easier to be open if we have a great relationship.
It all takes time. Quantity, quality of time are both important here. Like Linda was saying, you have to spend that time together. So spend those frequent little chats throughout the day, throughout the classroom while you're doing that. But you also have to have that planned time to spend time together, because it's a relationship, and in order for it to really work, you really have to know each other and be able to trust each other.
And communicate.
Yes, communicate, yes.
Thank you, Linda and Sophia. And I'll turn it over to Sandy and Anna.
I'll start. So our shared belief system is that all children have access and can learn. We truly have the belief that any child that's put in our class, that we can provide them access to lessons and to materials. And that's like our job, is to provide accommodations and modifications that they need so they can access their education. And then we just have that belief that all children can learn. We also believe in a strength-based approach. And so we look at children's strengths, and we also make sure that everyone is part of the community. Even like students that have some challenging behaviors and kids will question or not want to be around that child, we make sure that we address that and make sure that they know that all children are learning differently, and so that child is part of that community. And the other really important thing is that we look at children as our children. We don't look at them as state preschool children or children on IEPs. They're all our children. And we look at that also like with our staff too, that we're all like a collective team. And so when we look at our classroom, it's all children.
And just to add with Ms. Sandy, all staff does contribute to our student learning. Am I doing the wrong slide?
You're good. You're okay.
And just that, and just we also collaborate. I think it's really important for us to have that planning and collaboration time. And like she said, we do see, all of the staff sees the children as our children, like she mentioned. And we also have students to participate in the learning with the resources that we have and that they need.
So some of my strengths are I'm pretty energetic, and I also love working with strategies with challenging behaviors. And I'm also open-minded. And it's nice that Anna and I kind of have this like relationship where we have similar strengths, but then we also have different strengths that we feed off of each other. And so it's a nice balance. And then We also, we make sure that we're a united front, that we're together, that it's not, you know, Anna State Preschool, I'm special education, that we are in it together, and that we do shared decision making and problem solving. Like the other team, we believe that there's a solution for everything. And so a lot of times though, our problem solving and solutions are like on the spot because we don't get that much planning time. We kind of carve out a little bit. So we try to do it as much as possible during the planning time, but a lot of times it's right on the spot.
And also with our parity, I think I am very flexible and open-minded. I'm very positive and willingness to help others and help each other. I also go along with the flow. I'm very, if Miss Sandy says, you know, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna go, yeah, I'm all aboard, Miss Sandy, and I support her just as she supports me as well. I believe very strongly of inclusion and for children to have access. And what I want to talk about this picture is how you see here's all of our staff, and we purposefully put this in our school. We have at the door of our classroom, we introduce the teachers, the staff. So I really think it's really important for families to see everyone because we're a whole team, we're one. So we have this picture at the entrance where the children, the family sign in the children. So because I want them to understand that we're all one, and we're here to support their child.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I just want to say, as we move forward into this, thank you, Linda and Sophia, for sharing that she needs to know me and know my humor. That's the important part of parity as well, right? Getting to know one another and giving each other grace, because it's a journey and a learning process. And the appreciation, Sandy and Anna, of our children. This is us, this is ours. They all belong. And so that is huge. So thank you.
Okay. So for lesson planning, a lot of times we follow my curriculum is our curriculum. We do together the creative curriculum. So I have the lesson plan set up to where we walk through the activities together, the question of the day, and then she'll come in and say, okay, well, how are we going to meet this need for this child? So she'll add visuals or she'll add different hands-on experiences to go with the activities that I'm planning. So we're trying to problem solve and think about what things we need to add to each activity. And she's great for helping us to figure out what would work best for all learning types.
Yes. So like Linda was saying, you know, she's the specialist in the general education preschool classroom. And so she does the lessons, and we just work together, and I'm there to support with you know, what are the IEP goals that we're trying to address? What are the support things that we have in place for the IEP? You know, how do we implement that, make sure that we're implementing that while we're in that shared space? It is very important. One of the things that we find very important is that, like the other team was saying, it's really is our children. And when we are in a shared space together, we all help all children. So whoever is closest to the teacher, whoever is closest to the students at the time that are having, you know, need a little bit more support, that's who's helping the child. It's, you know, we try to coach each other to help support staff if they need a little bit more. So if a child is having a problem and I can coach the general ed staff into how to work with that child, you know, I do that. And the same thing with Linda, she's got some things that we're also learning from her about working with the general education children. What else do I want to say?
You know, it sounds really simple, but when we're planning a lesson, sometimes you don't think about something as simple as putting number cards in with the counting. And it's like, oh, these children are working on numbers. Let's put in some number cards. And it's like, yes, I was working with this child as well on numbers. So getting those extra set of eyes and ears and collaborating with them. Also, knowing our strengths, we both are very creative and think outside of our box. She's very put together and calm. So when sometimes I get a little bit like, okay, let's get all excited and let's do things. And Sophia's like, okay, Linda, let's calm. So she brings in her calmness. So like different personalities kind of helps a little bit. And just following her expertise and being flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, being able to observe Linda and Sophia in their classroom together, all of these are so present. And in the main session, we talked about norming as like one stage, but you know that this is a cyclical process. And Linda and Sophia really exemplify going through that process and making sure it's still working and reflecting on their practices. And I just have to give them kudos because I put it in the chat, but boy, going into your classroom, it feels like you're walking into your home and it feels like a family. And the next thing that I really want to highlight about Linda and Sophia is their planning process. They have administrators who are very supportive of their collaborative partnership, and that's something that's necessary. They have that protected time, that regular time to collaborate, both in those little chunks and in those bigger chunks, and also with the rest of the teaching team within the preschool program. And so we'll give them the space to share a little bit more about their planning process.
Yes, as she said, it's very important to have time set aside that we can consistently meet together and lesson plan together. And it's been great because it's not just me and her. We also bring our paras into it. So because they're an integral part of our teaching classroom. And then making sure that we are consistently meeting together and not just here and there kind of meeting together. And then it doesn't have to be a huge chunk of time. It can just be a 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here kind of thing. Come eat lunch with us. Collaboration time.
Yeah. But when we do meet together, it's just so important to be able to talk about all the little things. I don't want to talk about should we talk about, it's just that the more time you can spend together with your partner, and just being able to, know that person and to trust that person, because there's going to be times whenever, you guys disagree about something, and having that constant communication and being able to trust each other so that what you say, you don't have to be afraid to say. You've got to be honest. You've got to be open about it, so that you can solve the problem together. So
one of the big benefits, I think, also doing the lesson planning together is she knows my children and their strengths, just like I know what we're working on with her children. And so when we're planning our groups, she's able to help me piece together which children to place in the other groups together. And that just kind of develops by being in the classroom with them and knowing them. And then just watching, and you can look at each other across the room and identify something and points that we're observing the same thing. That helps as well, because we're like making eye contact and we're gesturing to each other. So we're making sure that we're seeing this child's at this level, or watch, this child's doing this. So we have these aha moments that we're not necessarily scripted, set down time and talk about. We're showing each other at the moment and having those body language throughout the day.
Part of the planning process is kind of designing what your day looks like. And so what we wanted to do is also give just an example of what a day can look like in an inclusive setting within a collaborative partnership. We know that master scheduling in early childhood looks very different than master scheduling does in the K-12 system. And this really here on the screen is an example of the master schedule for a day at the Marysville Child Development Program in the classroom that Linda and Sophia share, in the spaces that they share, because they both have their own spaces and then come together in a common space as well. So if you two just want to touch on some small pieces of your daily schedule where you're able to provide those inclusive opportunities and kind of what that looks like.
So we have a couple children who are dual enrolled, which means they come for the beginning part for about 2 hours. And when they come in with the para, the para is more of a side help person. She's not designated just for their children. I want it to be more of a family feel. She'll sit at the table with gen ed students and mix with everybody else, helping greet, helping us wash hands, doing the day-to-day. So you wouldn't know which para is a sped para, which which para is a general education para, because we're all kind of flowing together, picking up the pieces where they need to go. And same thing with like circle time. When we have children they'll come to the greeting, they'll eat breakfast, they'll come to circle time with us. Again, we want the paras to all mesh as a family and as a team. So they're not just specifically for their children. They're sitting down with the children over on this side, and the child that comes from the SPED class, it might be across the room. But they're watching and they're seeing where we might need support. The goal is to be able to have the children be able to learn and to adapt to our environment without so much support. So the SPED paras are really just kind of a part of our team, and they're here to add extra support as we need it.
I would just add also that even at the breakfast time, when we are sitting down, whenever we can be a part of that, and do like the question of the day with the students. In circle time, sometimes I get up and will read a story or lead a song, because that just helps the children that are in our care see us as both the teachers. And so we do try to, whenever we can fit it in, have us lead even a small group whenever we can, or that time, just so that we really are a family. We really are, it's not her classroom that we're going into, it's our inclusive classroom, where we all belong here. So I think that's important. So during small groups, we like Linda was saying, we sort of help. If my special ed staff is in here, we sort of help wherever is needed, because even in the general ed classroom, there's students that need extra support. So sometimes they might help ours. Sometimes we're kind of coaching the staff how to work with that child, so that they can do it. We want the child to be successful in the general education classroom. And if I am a one-on-one, or if my para is a one-on-one with my with our students that are in there, that's really not, they'll get dependent on that. And it's important to, let them be like their peers, and, not sit next to them, not give them help, just really give minimal help as you can, and just to try to work with staff and help them to also be able to work with those children. During free choice time, that's when more of my children come in. So our minutes are based on where the students' skills are, what their sensory needs are, things like that. So some of our children just come in for playtime. When they're ready, we can bring them in for circle time. So we actually have 2 students that are dually enrolled with 2 hours a day. We have a student that is an hour and a half a day. We have some students that are an hour a day, as well as some that are just 15 minutes of play inside and 15 minutes of play outside, because it's all based on their needs. When we're here during free choice time, we're mingling. All of the staff is mingling. Everybody is working with everyone else. We try to encourage relationships, and work on those social skills during those play times. And we're also working on IEP goals. There's a lot of IEP goals that we can work on while we are in the inclusion classroom. Can we talk about outdoors?
Well, I was gonna say one thing really quick. I want to be honest here, and I'm one of those overzealous people. So when we first said we're going to do inclusion and we're going to start this inclusion, I'm like, oh, bring them all in. Come on. We've got 6 kiddos in here. We're having a blast. We got it going. It did not work. So we quickly learned that you need to have bring children in at the time that is successful for them. It's make sure that you're intentional about when you bring them in and why you're bringing them in there and how you handle supporting them, because I blew that in the very beginning. I was just too excited. And it was hard when we had 6 children in here at the same time. So making sure that you are being intentional and you know their strengths and what you're working on with them, so you can build on those strengths and also challenge them, but don't overwhelm them.
Yeah. And looking at their IEP goals can also give you a lot of direction about which kids may do better in there, and which kids, there are certain goals that my children have that are really hard to work on when they're just in the SDC classroom. We don't always have willing pairs, willing partners, and so there are certain goals that are just better to be worked on in the inclusion classroom. And so, you know, when you it just is looking at that. So look at the IEP, look at the accommodations that need to be. That's the other thing I think that's really important is how you set up the classroom for the kids to be successful.
Thank you. And can I just wanted to clarify that what we see in your program and that uniqueness of the individualized learning that needs to happen, and you're meeting the children where they are. And so we're going to get to hear also from our La Mesa Spring Valley team. And I just want to set this stage because I know they're going to talk so lovely about it, but I want to say when I've been in there in the Marysville, in the La Mesa Spring Valley site, watching that flexibility just as you two described, and even though their children are there for the 3 hours, allowing children to step away still and have that moment and the adult roles in that. So I'm going to hand it over to Anna and Sandy, and thank you guys.
So our students, all students are there for the 3 hours, and we just provide the accommodations and modifications during those 3 hours. We distribute roles and responsibilities. We view all of our paras as teachers, and so there are sometimes when we break out into small group, we have 3 tables, and a lot of times you'll see a para teaching, and then sometimes I'll be assisting and a para will be teaching if I need to work with like one student, or if there's a cluster of students that need to be more supported and have different strategies. And then Anna and I, during the day, we do different kind of variety of things. So we always start out with I teach, she assists, and then we move into kind of team teaching. We're in a dual language school, and so we do some strategies for dual language. And so we use the GLAD strategies during one circle time. And so I'm teaching, and then she's saying it in Spanish and doing the pictorial. And then we also have times where one person is teaching, whether it's Anna or myself, and then there might be students at a table that need extra help. So they're at a table while I'm teaching at circle time. And then we also have station teaching where we're spread out amongst ourselves in the students in the classroom. And so we're all working on something different. And it's really a cooperative process. We really work together, especially during planning time of what each person's going to be doing and have that shared experience. And then we want to make sure that all of our staff, no matter if it's state preschool paras or special ed paras, that we're a collective team, that anybody can work with any child, and we provide them the skills to do that. And then we also we made a schedule in the beginning of the school year, and that shows what each person is supposed to be doing at that time and how they support the students. And then we put what the students are doing at that time and what they should be doing. And really, after a couple of weeks, everybody kind of knows their role. And so it runs very smoothly after everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing at each time.
Like Miss Sandy said, it does, once we already got that established, is the whole schedule for the day, it runs pretty much smoothly because we already know where our role is, and we're already ready there to support the children. And like you guys had mentioned too, like all of the children, if someone is there, like we're all there. It's not like we've said it since the beginning, it is our children. So whoever's near the child that needs that support, that's what we're there for.
And I just want to add too, and I know that this is just a very small piece of their schedule of the roles, the smoothness that their other staff members in their classroom, they all know where to be and what to do, and they keep on going. Nobody hiccups and really has to look over and say, now what? So and in addition to that, I do want to say that I know some of your service providers come into your classrooms to provide those services. They don't pull students out. So that's That's wonderful.
Yes, our OT comes in and so does our speech. They do all push in. And so it's in their natural environment, in their routines. And so they're not pulled out for either of those services.
Fantastic.
That is fantastic. I just want to note really quickly, there's questions coming into the chat. We're collecting them and we're going to be able to provide space to answer some of the questions. If they haven't been answered in the chat, thumbs up, shout out to our leaders who are here with their co-teaching teams for jumping into the chat and answering some of these questions that have been asked in the chat. Thank you so much to our leaders who are also here today. One of the things that we know that's most important about moving forward with inclusive practices or any changes in your program at all is that parent communication piece. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to ask Linda and Sophia to share a little bit about their parent communication process and kind of the key elements of how they were able to communicate what they were doing to the parents to make sure that the parents felt comfortable and that they felt connected to the whole process.
So we have a unified start where we actually do our parent orientation together. So we're able to answer questions. We're able to talk about the importance of inclusion and the benefits that it has for all children and adults alike. And so that's really starting from the very beginning and being front loading all the things that we were going to be doing this year and what inclusion means.
Yeah. The joint orientation really was different. I felt that really helped us to start out all together, and it was different. So we really loved doing that combined orientation, and we're going to keep that. But the next part I was going to talk about is consistent communication. So we have a lot of inclusive events that take place, and so we're always communicating with the parents about those events. One of the things in our program is the general education children come into the classroom and pick up their children. They come out in the playground and they pick up the children. And so they do get to see our children, every day. And I wish all of my parents could do the same, but we have busing. And so for some of the children, the parents don't really get to interact with the kids as much as your parents, come in and interact with their children. And so the inclusive events are very important to my parents because that really gives them that chance to get to know other parents that maybe they wouldn't have known otherwise, and just to start building relationships. And so that as the children are talking about children, the parents are also aware of who the children are.
Yes, I've had many parents come in and ask me who's this child, because my child keeps coming home and talking about this child. Or we'll have a little celebration. Woohoo, this child went to the potty. So they'll go home and they'll talk about it. Or they'll be waving at them and greeting them as we're coming up the railing, and they'll watch them walking to their classroom. So just identifying and naming that child as they come up, I think helps the parent as well, because I didn't know one of the parents knew my name, and she'd say, "Oh, there's Miss Linda. Say hi, Miss Linda," as they're walking to Sophia's classroom. So making sure that we're acknowledging the families as they walk up to bring their children, those that do bring their children, and making sure that we're pointing out with our families constantly about being able to adapt and celebrate successes. It's how we keep them going throughout the year. We do our fall festivals, our concerts, our graduations, and it showcases our family and how we get along with each other. And those moments I know we don't have much time, but we had our first family game night on game day last year. And it was so cute because we actually had families come in, and we had some of her classes, she's like, I don't know if I should bring our families over for this event because it sounds a little bit hard. But we had children who were with other families, and they were mixing and playing games and everything. And we had parents that were talking, and it was the most beautiful, I think, gathering that we've had was our family game day, just because all the families were mixing together with different students that weren't even their own children.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. That's amazing. And we can always talk about what we think the experience of families is, but the beautiful thing that we have here for you all today is that we can actually share something that a parent from the preschool program in Marysville has actually said, and it's been elevated on the UPK social media outlets and in other spaces. And I just really want to uplift the voice of parents and the experience that parents are sharing, having a child who is experiencing inclusion, and really just highlighting that last piece where this person's child comes home oftentimes talking about this friend that they've made that they would not have otherwise made if it wasn't for an inclusive opportunity. And she notes that it creates opportunities to talk about how our differences are what make us wonderful. And I think, that's really what we hope for, right? That we live in a diverse and a diverse community in a diverse world, and that we're able to have these conversations with our kids because they're having that experience from the very beginning is so beautiful and wonderful. And yes, we do want to give a shout out to Kim McMillan and her team for putting this together. There is a full video with music that actually might make you want to cry a little bit. If you want to watch that, we just wanted to elevate the true voice from families. And I also want to give space to Sandy and Anna right now if you'd like to share any experiences from your families that you want to elevate, or how you communicate with your families.
So our families all do drop off and pick up at the same time. And so like last year, a lot of them were talking while they were waiting to pick up their child, and they went on play dates. And so it was really exciting to see that it wasn't like siloed parents picking up kids. It was everybody together. And so, and we communicate with families throughout the year. We do class dojo, and so they always know what we're doing. Anna, did you want to add anything?
No, I think Miss Sandy pretty much already explained everything. Like she said, we do communicate through them, especially as I think Miss Sophia also mentioned, we do have some children that ride the bus as well. So our best communication is through the class dojo. Any concerns or questions that they might have, or any activities that we have for our children, we usually post them right there in the class story where all families can view, and they can respond, and that's how we communicate with each other.
And we do things like winter performances, spring performances that the school does. So we're always incorporated with what our school is doing. They always include us if it's something K through 5, or TK through 5, they always include us in whatever activities. And so we do that all together.
Well, as we reach the adjournment of this meeting, which is also the last step in our collaborative partnerships process, right? Adjourning, we want to end with hearing about the wins. We want to end hearing, as far as these two teaching teams go, the hard work that you've put in over time and the commitment that you and your teams have put in over time to ensure that your students have the most inclusive opportunities and the rich experiences that they deserve. What are some of the wins for you? And we'll ask Anna and Sandy to go ahead and start out with some of those.
I guess for me would be seeing how those the wins are, how seeing children, they work together and they are learning among each other. And like I said, we're all together in one. Since in our inclusion program, we have children, we're both general ed, and our children from the SDC classroom. So we're all together. So I think that's our win-win. And how you see how they care for each other and they do help each other, especially when they see something, and they're always trying to help out each other. So I think that's the win-win. And also the connection that the families are making, like Miss Sandy did mention, since we do have some time from our starting, the program starts at 8:15. So families are usually waiting, and just seeing those connections between the families is really our win-win.
And I also add, like,
you want to add?
Oh, yeah, it's a cohesive team. It's really nice that everyone sees each other as part of this one team, and that everyone is valued. Like, teachers are valued, paras are valued, the students are valued. And then the one big win for me, well, there's many wins, but the one that I really like focus on is it makes it easier and more successful for transition for TK and K for students to go into general education. And so we really work on, you know, that they're in a large group setting, that to help with their sensory needs and things like that. Last year, we had one student that one year, the first year he was in my SDC class before we did co-teaching, and he barely talked. He wouldn't play with anybody. The next year he was in our co-taught class, and he started talking more. He started playing with students more, and now he's in TK and he needs no supports. So to see that gradual release and to see him be successful was a huge win. And the other thing that I'm always like excited about is when we do transitions to TK and K. Last year, all of the students that were in the co-taught class went to general education with supports that they needed. And this year, when I look at transitions again, all students that are in the co-taught class are going into general education services.
That's a huge win, right? That's exactly what we want to do. That's exactly what we want to see. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, Linda and Sophia, you want to share some of the biggest wins that you've experienced on your journey so far?
Yeah, sorry. I think the biggest wins is just watching my children be successful in these environments. And watching the friendships develop. So we've seen some real friendships, and that's just really exciting for me to see, because it's something that's really difficult for my children. I think just when we walk into the class, just seeing how the smiles are there, the greeting that, you know, a lot of my children are working on greetings, and so when they're able to come in and be greeted and to greet the children, that's exciting. Let me think what else is, sorry. So I've had some children that, you know, were not able to sit. They weren't able to sit at a circle and listen to a story. You know, they did not have that attention. And now I have students, even within a 1 year's time for being in this classroom for 2 hours a day, that can sit and participate completely for the whole circle time. And just so exciting to be able to witness that. You know, children that don't look at kids in the eye are learning how to greet those peers. I'm trying to think about my other big ones. I think that's, yeah. So sorry, just those things.
So mine is the school family that we've created. And a good example of that was today when I had to stop a fight because they were fighting over a friend that there was 3 of them that, oh, come play with me, and they're pulling their hands, and we got to talk about being gentle with our friends, and they're playing dramatic play with the children. They walk in the door and they're yelling, like if you've ever heard the church, cheers, Norm. It's like that with the kiddos, and they're yelling their names. And one of the kiddos that we're working on the IEP, we've been doing embedded instruction, and one of them is language, and he's turned around the last 2 weeks. He is the top participator. Miss Linda, I can't see the number board. Can you please turn it so I can see? I mean, he's talking and he's participating. And one of the little girls today is very, very, very shy. And she's our counter this week, the school job. So she's our counter. And the first day she's like, don't look at me, I'm hiding. Today she stood up, and as I'm doing our affirmation, she's like, I counter. And she wanted to count, and she walked around and counted each of the kiddos. And that was huge for her. So that's got to be my biggest things, and the questions from the parents, because I'm having parents come in and ask me, how do I talk to my child when they're asking, why is this child making these noises? Why is this child doing this? And that's great because it gives me a conversation with them and they're wanting to explain it. I grew up where you don't make eye contact with children that are different than you, and that's rude to stare. Now it's only been since inclusion. I'm embarrassed to say this, but it's only been since inclusion. I make an effort to smile at everybody that I see and give them a greeting. If they're in a wheelchair, if they're using a walker, no matter what, I make an effort, because I was always scared to approach, because I was always told that was rude. So I feel like my win is the comfortability I have in the being able to see everybody around me wanting to embrace inclusion. So that's huge for me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you to everyone for sharing. We are getting to that point in our evening together where we're able to kind of start taking questions and interacting in that way. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.